Hello and welcome back to Far From Hockey. Welcome back to the channel. And if you follow me on Twitter these days, I am more than just angry online, I promise. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's right, I am back. It's been a while, but I'm in front of the brick wall again. And I'm here to talk about something pretty important. And to preface this, I don't really believe or condone in just considering some folks woke and some people not woke. It is not that black and white. It's not that simple. There are people that are learning and unlearning every day and trying to be better. There are people that are still trying to process some of these new changes in the whole social lenses that we're looking through, Robin Leonard. And there are also people that just do not care about the social issues and are totally fine with the status quo. But there's a lot going on in hockey. There's a lot going on away from the puck. And believe it or not, we're not just watching the puck fly around the ice every night. There are players playing the puck, and these players we definitely care about. I know you guys watch interviews. We know what their hometowns are like. We know where they come from, their country of origin. So it is kind of lazy just to say, I just want to watch the puck on the ice. I don't care about everything else. There is more to it. And you know where I'm getting at. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And it would be nice just to be able to talk about Johnny Gaudreau and why the Flames are struggling and where his trade destination might be. But there is more to it than that. And you know exactly where I'm getting at. What's going on with Akim Aliu and the abuse scandals and allegations and the whistleblowers in hockey. There is abuse going on in hockey, and Hakeem Aliu is maybe the tip of the iceberg, but one of the biggest stories we've had in hockey in a while. It started when Mitch Marner was asked to produce a list of the players on his team that produced the least effort, and that was kind of a mess. Babcock was out, and then Akim Aliu sent out a couple of tweets saying he was not surprised because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. As you probably know by now, Bill Peters directed the N-word at Akim Aliu in regards to the music he was listening to back when he was in the American Hockey League. And still to this day, non-black folks should not use this word. No matter how many times you might hear it, no matter how many times you might hear it in music, in culture, in movies, it is not a word you can use. There are still connotations that go back to the slavery days that have deep, deep-rooted aggression and segregation and just calling black people second-class citizens. So there is no reason it should be used or uttered like that. And to hear it, thrown at this essentially kid when he's in the American Hockey League, it's just disheartening to know that Bill Peters went on to make millions of dollars after this happened, while Aliu's career continued to kind of spiral. And I don't really want to go into the specifics of if he would have had a great NHL career, because I know that's something that a lot of people are fixated in and saying he's just doing this for the cash grab, which is kind of disgusting, because if you listen to Akim Aliu's story, it is really interesting, and he's gone through a lot more than just this. When he continued to play hockey, he continued to face injustice and abuse. In junior hockey, he decided to go against hazing on the bus. He didn't want to be stripped naked with his teammates, and that turned into a fight in practice. He was suspended, and it's just, this kid's been through a lot, and it's just unfair just to throw these insults at him before you really know the truth. And at first when he made these allegations, of course we don't know whether they're true or not, but they were quickly confirmed, and people still want to deny the kid. And he's not a kid now, he's 30 years old, and it's just a case of what could have been, because we don't know what Akim Aliu's career would have been like if he wouldn't have had to go through these things. Because sports is something that is not just physical, it's what's happening between the ears. And if a kid has to face abuse every time he goes to the rink, and it's going to be tough to perform hockey at the highest level. And we're not saying that he would have been Nathan MacKinnon or Connor McDavid, but, Nathan and Connor might have started, at equal footing with extreme training. But even if you have the same training and you're facing extreme abuse, you're going to end up back here because you're fighting through, the psychological aspect of trying to, face abuse and teammates that don't really mess with you because you're a distraction to the team and you don't follow team culture. Well, maybe team culture and hockey culture needs a change. Maybe that is the root of the problem altogether. And this is not a hockey-specific problem. We look at the NFL and Colin Kaepernick taking a knee for what he believed in and trying to make his country better and improve conditions for black Americans, and then he's blackmailed from the sport altogether. And we can talk about his record and whether or not he deserved another chance, but we know he was blacklisted. We know. And it is just really tough to be a sports fan, and that's the question I asked originally, can you be woke and be a sports fan? Well, yes, you can enjoy the product on the field or on the ice, but you have to think beyond it. One of my favorite things that my girlfriend has taught me is that nothing exists in a vacuum. You can't just watch the sport and watch the players on the sport on the field without, you know, realizing what they've been through, what they have to go through, and stuff like that. And cycling back to Akim Aliu, he did bring this up 10 years ago. And one of the main things I've seen is, why is he bringing it up now? Why didn't he bring this up 10 years ago? Well, he did, and nothing really changed. In 2009, this wouldn't have been a news story, but in 2019, I guess it gained traction enough thanks to Twitter and Instagram and people reporting on it and seeing this tweet, and change came after that. That is kind of the issue altogether. 10 years ago, this wasn't a news story. 20 years ago, this wasn't a news story. 30 years ago, maybe it was even the norm. So we are progressing, and it is okay to go back in time and try to find injustices. I know a lot of people also ate up the comments that Robin Leonard made a few days later, saying that these men aren't monsters. You can't just condemn them after one incident. Everyone deserves a second chance, but I think that's pretty lazy as well. And I get it, Robin. I get where you're coming from, and I can be pragmatic. I can hear different sides. He's went through substance abuse, and he got a second chance, and he's very grateful for that. But this isn't the same thing. This isn't the same magnitude. It's not your friend down the street using the N-word a few times, and you say, hey, bro, chill out, and he fixes himself. This is a man in Bill Peters who was in his 50s, and he was already well aware of the implications, well aware of what this means to say to a black player. And if he was ignorant, then maybe that's the problem. We need to work on that ignorance. But he knew what he was doing. I'm sorry, he just did. And you can't just say, oh, this was a mistake. What kind of mistake? And to Robin Leonard, he says we don't talk about mental illness enough. Well, I don't think you could just blame this on mental illness. I feel like that's a disservice to those who have mental illnesses. I mean, there is more nuance to this than just, oh, he deserves a second chance. Well, he had a few chances, because his incident with racial abuse was not the end of Bill Peters. He also went on to choke and punch when he was a head coach in Calgary. So if these things are the norm, and Robin Leonard said, well, in yesteryear, maybe you were able to physically abuse and hit players to try to motivate them. Well, times are changing, and it is okay to change. And it is okay to try to call these things out as unacceptable today. As a community, it is our responsibility to grow. And some people might say we're just getting more sensitive, but in the end, we are becoming more inclusive. And we're listening to more voices that stand up and say, hey, that is not all right. It is not okay. I feel like shit when you say this. It's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. It is okay to feel. And that's just something that is fundamentally needs to be understood. It fundamentally needs to be understood that some people feel uncomfortable. And if you're choked and abused and you hear language thrown at you, you might not have a good time playing hockey. We might have pushed away tons of minority hockey players already because of things that might have been socially acceptable in the past. So let's just try to be better. That's the bottom line. And Robin Leonard, he could have very easily said, hey, this was a mistake, but we need to be better. But instead, it just felt like he gave a lane for these things to continually be excused and continually be accepted as, oh, that was just a mistake. Well, let's stop making mistakes, because we know. It's not a mistake when you know. It is an intentional abuse when you know. A mistake is when you accidentally sing along the words of a song and the N-word slips out. Maybe you read a book in class and everybody hears you say the N-word, but it is not a mistake when you tell them to turn off that shit, right? So let's just get that clear. We need protection for players of color. We need them to feel comfortable from the second they put on their first pair of skates, from the second they take their first shot, to when they are in the NHL in the penalty box, like Devontae Smith-Pelly in Chicago hearing basketball. So there are a lot of abuses in hockey, and this is not the first of them. Like Akim Aliu said in his meeting with the NHL, we need whistleblower protection. We need education at the youth level. Because that's the only way this is going to change. It has to start from when these kids first play hockey. We cannot hope that when they become NHLers they are safe, because there's no hoping. There's not hope without action. There are racists in North America, obviously, but unless they are held accountable, well then what's going to happen? These things are going to continue to happen. We can't just hope. We cannot just hope. There has to be action behind the hope. There has to be consequences behind the injustices. And that's why Bill Peters had to go. There was no two ways around it. And if we find out that other coaches have used this word, well, maybe they shouldn't be around kids playing hockey. Maybe their entire career shouldn't have ever happened, but we can't go back in time. And that's why it's not cancel culture. It's accountability culture. You did something wrong and you are facing the repercussions, period. That's it. That's why these conversations are important. And that's why all conversations about sports and the athletes that play them and the actions they do are important. Like Roberto Ozuna with the Houston Astros and that whole incident with the assistant general manager. I'm so glad that we got this domestic abuser in front of the women that are covering the story. It is important. I just feel like we're talking at each other and nobody really understands each other. As a hockey fan, I can't hate white people. They're playing the sport. It's not hatred. It's just trying to gain ground in this conversation and be included in a community. And that's why groups like the Black Girl Hockey Club shout out. They're so important to today's movement. These are women that like hockey, that like to go to games together. But if you see the story that aired on Canadian televisions, and if you read the comments, and I know, Renee, I'm not supposed to read the comments, if you see it, it would seem like we're taking the sport away from white people altogether. I saw a comment that said, well, if I created a group called the White Guy Hockey Club, then I would be just as persecuted. What are you talking about? You go to the game and you look in the arena, it is the White Guy Hockey Club. I mean, we're just trying to find a space where we feel like it's okay, because if a professional player can get comments from his coach, imagine walking through the concourse of the arena. I mean, think about it. Until these steps are made, we need these groups. And until these groups are accepted, well, then they will exist. And I am proud to be a member of the group, an ally of the group. I have a background in journalism, but there are journalists that are doing excellent, excellent work in the field, like Erica Ayala, like Burn It All Down podcast. You should listen to them. It's excellent. Like Josh Vina Shah. You're writing excellent stuff, and there is excellent information out there if you do care enough to gain understanding about this world, about the sport, and about the socioeconomics that surround it. I think it's a lot of fun. I enjoy all of it, from the hockey to how we're getting better to how we will improve. All of it is important. All of it means a lot to me. And if we kind of bring it back down to a very local level, I'm trying to do my part too. I'm trying to start a nonprofit organization to get kids playing hockey for the first time, to get kids roller skating, playing inline hockey, hopefully transitioning to ice hockey in my backyard, because this is what actual action looks like, and it's not easy. You can't just ask the NHL for a lot of dough and hope it comes true. You have to put in hard work, and you have to break down some barriers that you didn't even know existed. So hockey will get better, hockey will improve, and hopefully you'll be a part of it. Because if not, you might just get left behind and be a dinosaur like Milan Lucic trying to keep up with today's NHL. And one more thing I haven't done in a while, but I want to make sure I do it. I have a puck of the day. Shout out to the Corpus Christi Ice Race. I actually caught this puck in person at the American Bank Center. I didn't really catch it. It hit a mesh and it landed pretty close to me. But hey, shout out to the Corpus Christi Ice Race. It was a lot of fun. And I think that's my last video on the channel, because I uploaded something for a youth hockey group in Mexico. But yeah, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for following Far From Hockey. I'm Far From Hockey. I'm trying to get you closer, and we will make strides.